hey, I'm in a moral dilemma right now and I don't know what to do here. So I've come to Reddit for advice, because I can't really talk to my friends about this because it's too personal, and neither can I talk to my family because they'll just get worried about me and they have enough on their plate already. So here I am, seeking advice and maybe a little emotional support. I am a 35-year-old male, have been married to my wife, who is a 32-year-old female, for 6 years. We were together for 4 years before we finally tied the knot, and we also have a 5-year-old daughter together. She works at an event management firm and I'm a software engineer, so we're okay money-wise. I would say that we had a happy, beautiful marriage up until last year, when my father, a 60-year-old male, was diagnosed with leukemia. It was sudden and we were all shocked by it, and my wife was my pillar of strength at the time. She stood by me and told me that she'd be there for me, and she really was true to that. But the last few months have been rocky for us, both financially and emotionally. And we'd been fighting a lot, with almost every conversation turning into an argument, so we ended up avoiding each other for days after that. My parents have managed to cover the medical bills themselves, but my brother and I have also been contributing certain amounts of money every month so that they don't exhaust their savings. Both my parents are retired, so we can't let that happen, and they refuse to let us pay off their bills. So we just make small contributions, like buying their groceries occasionally, paying for their gas and other miscellaneous expenses. Nothing too major, and it doesn't hurt either, because my brother and I make enough money to live on for the rest of the month easily. I'd also been putting aside some money for my daughter's college fund right from the time she was born, and intend on continuing to do that every month, because that's something my parents did for me and my brother, and it worked out well for us, so I want to continue this ritual for my daughter as well. After keeping aside some money for my parents, my daughter's college fund, and paying our own bills, my wife and I aren't left with much to afford the kind of lifestyle that she wants. She's grown up rich, but my parents were middle management, and so they did make enough money to provide for us, but not enough to take us on foreign trips for vacations and throw us lavish birthday parties, which is what my wife is used to. For a while we were able to have that lifestyle for ourselves, but it made saving money a little difficult. But she didn't care much about savings and the future, and she was having fun, as was our daughter, so I didn't say anything at the time, and chose not to plan for the future, and spent a lot of money on vacations, clothes, gadgets, and just everything fancy, you name it. It was only in the past few months that I asked my wife to cut down on unnecessary expenses a little bit so that we could save more for the future, because Dad's diagnosis had also scared me. My dad was a healthy man and rarely even had a cold or a sore throat, and now all of a sudden he couldn't survive without frequent hospital visits. This could just as easily happen to any of us. So I wanted to stop wasting our money and save for the future. It wasn't like I was being a miser, I just didn't want to be a spendthrift anymore and live beyond our means. My wife didn't like that decision of mine, but she still tried to live by the budget that I'd set for all of us for the first few months. So it was all going smoothly, but for the last couple of months she started going back to her extravagant ways little by little. And when I tried to gently nudge her in the right direction, she got mad at me and told me that I had no right to tell her what to do with her own money. That was fair, I guess. We've tried to keep our finances separate as far as possible, and so I didn't say anything else to her after that, because she's right. She doesn't have to save her money just because I want to think about the future. Her job, her salary, and her money are hers at the end of the day, so maybe I can advise her, but I can't control her. And I had a lot on my mind anyway with my dad's health and my own workload, so I didn't want to fight that battle as well and let it slide. So that's how it's been for the last 2 or 3 months. My wife's been spending her own salary like water, and I haven't stopped her either, but then last week she threw herself a really lavish birthday party, and I was stunned that she'd managed to pull off something so big. I mean, she does work in event management, so she probably did get discounts from her contacts, but even then, it seemed to be an expensive affair. I knew what she earned, and even though it was a decent amount, I knew that she couldn't afford to throw a party this fancy with so many guests, and also buy us all the number of gifts that she did. She bought me a new tux from a luxury brand, and bought herself and our daughter matching diamond earrings. I couldn't imagine where she even got that sort of money from, but I'd made up my mind not to ask because I didn't want to get yelled at for no reason. She doesn't take money from her parents on principle, and she definitely didn't ask me for money, so I assumed that she must have been able to save up enough somehow and was spending her own money. It took a lot of effort, but I didn't ask her anything about what money she'd used to pay for the party and the gifts that she'd bought for us. And she didn't tell me either, and it wasn't discussed further. 2 days ago, I was told that I was being promoted, and that meant a better position in the company, my own office, and most importantly, a significant raise, too. I was thrilled, but that didn't last for long, because just as I was about to call my wife to tell her the good news, I received a call from the bank and was informed that my daughter's college fund had been drained, and only $50 were left now, so she'd drained almost all of it in the past few months. I can't give out the exact amount, but we've saved a little over $20,000 over the past few years. They told us that they'd been trying to get a hold of my wife, but she wasn't answering her calls, so they decided to call me instead to ask whether I wanted to close that account or not. I knew instantly where the money for all those gifts her party came and all her other expensive purchases came from, and I was stunned that my wife would do such a thing. For the past few months, we hadn't discussed our finances, since she'd made it very clear that she wanted to keep it all separate, and didn't want to stick to my budget, so I didn't push her either. But we'd both been putting aside some money for our daughter's college fund, because that had always been a non-negotiable. Never in 100 years would I have imagined that she'd use that money to pay for her own extravagant lifestyle, and I was shocked when I found out what she did. Both of us had equal control over that account, and we'd trusted each other enough to consult with the other before they got into those funds. So far, neither of us had done so, but she'd broken that unspoken rule as well, just so that she could have some fun. And I just couldn't let that slide. I confronted my wife about what I'd found out as soon as I got home that day, and instead of apologizing for doing what she did, she doubled down on it and started yelling at me about the way I handled my finances instead. She told me that I was a miser who only cared about the future, and in the process of saving for the future, I was ruining the present for both her and our daughter. She accused me of never letting them have any fun or blow off any steam because I was just always paranoid about the money, and so she'd done whatever she'd thought was right. She said that our daughter had enjoyed the party, she'd loved her gift, and even in the past she'd had the time of her life whenever we'd loosened the purse strings a little. She said that she had zero regrets about what she did and insisted that it was about time that we resume our old lifestyle and start spending money like there's no tomorrow instead of hoarding it unnecessarily. I don't agree with any of what she said for a multitude of reasons. The first is that I've never ever denied my family the joys of life because I want to save money. I've never been a miser like she's been accusing me of, and has always agreed to buy whatever my family has asked of me for their happiness. But my daughter's getting older, and it is going to be more expensive in the future, so the only thing I asked my wife was to be a little more cautious about how she spends her money, because in case of emergencies we shouldn't be caught unprepared. That's all I wanted her to be, careful about her money, and most importantly, I don't agree with her ideology of not saving at all and living in the present. I think that comes from a place of privilege, and I really don't think it's practical for the long run. There are a lot of things that could go wrong, and even if things don't go wrong, it's always a good idea to have some savings kept aside, instead of just burning through all your money because you're young and want to live it up. Truth be told, we're not even that young anymore, since I'm well in my 30s and my wife's just a few years behind. And we have a daughter to think of, so I do think that we should be putting some money aside for her future. It's not even like I'm saying that we should put all our money aside for the future and never spend anything right now, but at least 15% of our income should go into our savings. I'm already helping my parents out, and I haven't asked her to contribute anything, but the least she can do is not dip into our savings for our daughter. I think that's a reasonable demand, but my wife just wants to blow it all on expensive vacations, parties, drinks, restaurants, and clothes. It's fine once in a while, but we're not millionaires who can afford it every other day. Which is definitely what my wife seems to believe. I've never been the kind of man to impose my beliefs on someone else, especially my wife, because I don't want to come off as controlling. But I think it's about time that I make it clear to her that once you get married and have kids, you need to think about your family and put them before yourself. That's just how it is, so she can't just do whatever she wants and spend an exorbitant amount of money just to show the world that we're rich. It wasn't even her 21st birthday. She's literally 30. It's just not okay, and I can no longer turn a blind eye to her spending habits. So, out of anger and frustration, I ended up showing her the email that my company had sent me with regards to the promotion, and told her that now that I was going to have a better paycheck, I'd start saving for our daughter's college fund again, and this time I'd do it all on our own. I told her that she wasn't going to get even a single penny from me now, no matter what happened, since she didn't believe that it was important to consult with me before spending such huge amounts of money on things that were totally unnecessary. She got upset when I said that now our finances were going to be totally separate moving forward, and said that I was getting egoistic just because I got a promotion. I don't understand how this is wrong, because a few months ago she told me the same thing and said that what she did with her money was her business. So now what I did with my money was my business. Ever since we got married, I'd been the one to take care of all the family's expenses because I earned more, but my wife would categorically only spend on herself and occasionally buy things for us as well, but never contributed to the monthly or daily expenses. And that was all me. For years I'd been paying all our bills, keeping aside money for our future, and also making sure my wife and daughter got the kind of comfort they were used to because I could afford it, and I wanted to give them everything. But my wife couldn't see all that, and only wanted to accuse me of being a miser because I wasn't extravagant when it came to spending. Her money was her money, but somehow my money was our money. I'd had enough of that, and so I decided to put an end to this system because now the cost of living would be split equally between us, and she had to contribute because I was sick of her entitlement. She's not happy at all about any of this and says that I'm being horrible to her just because I make more than she does, and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing right now. I don't think this is nothing. On one hand, she says that she regrets what she did, but on the other, she's saying stuff like this and it's messing with my heart now. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that she has to start contributing to the family's expenses even after I get a raise, after she drained my daughter's college fund? Update 1. Hello everyone, I read through the messages people sent and the comments on the post, and I think I made the right decision. A lot of people have advised me to file for divorce, but unfortunately that's not a feasible option. My wife and I have been together for a long time, and even if I'm able to keep my feelings for her aside and actually file for divorce, there's still my daughter to think about. I don't think a custody battle is something that I want to deal with right now. Of course, if things get too bad and my wife refuses to change her ways, then I will have to separate, because it's gotten to a point where her financial decisions are affecting me in a really bad way. It's been 5 days since our argument, and we haven't even talked to each other since then. Our daughter is also kind of miffed by our behavior, but this time I'm not going to go running back to her to make things right. I'm not the one who messed up, so I don't feel like I owe her an apology, but she most certainly does. Not just an apology, but also a promise that she's going to change her ways. I can't go on like this, and I'm putting my foot down now after years of tolerating this. I've also spoken to my family about it, even though I didn't want to, but my parents could sense that something was wrong when I visited them 2 days ago, and I ended up telling them everything that had been bothering me. Especially how my wife had drained the college fund I'd been putting aside for so many years now. She had no right to do that, and when I told my family about it, they were shocked to hear it. They told me that I was being completely fair and reasonable here because what she'd done was messed up and really selfish. So I think I'm on the right path here, but just in case things go south regarding our relationship, my dad insisted that I speak to his lawyer for advice. I haven't actually done it yet because it feels like a betrayal that I can't go back from, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. But judging by my wife's nonchalant behavior right now, I guess I might have to speak to the lawyer sooner than I thought. I've worked hard to get to the place where I am today career-wise, and I'm not going to let my wife take over my life and get away with whatever she wants in case of a divorce. I'm very upset about all of this, and I did try to give her a chance to apologize and make it work, but I can't go on like this without knowing if she'll ever change. So I've decided that if in the next 3 days she doesn't speak to me and make things okay, I'll be filing for divorce. I won't let myself get taken for granted all the damn time now. Update 2. I told my wife that I'm going to file for divorce today. 6 days have passed, and I was trying to build up the courage to leave, but now I finally feel like I can leave without feeling guilty about putting my daughter through this. But with her best interests at heart, I think I need to end this marriage because things aren't going to get better anymore, and I've spent enough time waiting for her to turn it around. I told her that I'd already spoken to a lawyer and I was moving out by tomorrow. She didn't take that well and was quite hysterical when I told her that I wasn't going to change my mind now, no matter what she said. She said that she was sorry about everything and that she'd change, but it was too little and too late now. My wife was sobbing when I told her that I wasn't changing my decision now, and it was really hard for me to remain composed, but I had to power through it somehow. My daughter slept through it all, luckily, since I did it after her bedtime. My wife tried her very best to persuade me to stay, but I just cannot do this anymore. Clearly, the differences we have are irreconcilable, and I also mentioned that she'd had more than a week to talk things through with me, but she chose to ignore me and avoid the conversation, and now it was just too late for us. Then she brought up how difficult this would be for our daughter, and just for her sake we should try to work it out, and also suggested that we go to a marriage counselor. Unfortunately, it was for my daughter's sake that I'd had to make this difficult choice to leave my wife. I reminded her that she's the one who spent all the money in the college fund and then refused to apologize for it, so I don't think it's the best idea for us to continue to be together. She got a little defensive at that point, and that just reinforced what I already believed about her, that she was just never going to change, and it was time that we split up and started living how we actually wanted to. As long as we're together, one of us is going to have to keep making compromises, and I'm sick of being the only one who does. We fought about it for a while, but she gave up and locked herself in the bedroom. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight, but I've already packed my stuff and I'm going to be moving into a hotel by tomorrow until I find a place for myself. I haven't talked to my wife about it yet because she's still torn up about everything I said today and needs time to process things, but soon enough. I'll also bring up the custody arrangement informally regarding our daughter before we get into the legalities. Update 3. Hey! Almost a month has passed since I filed for divorce, and the first couple of days were very difficult once I moved out, but I think I'm getting the hang of it now. The first week in particular was the worst because my wife was inconsolable and called me every single day to try and get back with me. When crying didn't work, she decided to use a different tactic and started trying to guilt-trip me by saying that she was the one who always stuck by me, and now that I got the promotion I wanted, I suddenly didn't need her anymore. Both of us knew that nothing that she was saying was true, but I let her get it out of her system because both of us were hurting. But I didn't want to ruin my relationship with her entirely, since I still had to continue co-parenting with her. My daughter is still really young, and she wants her mother just as much as she wants me. It broke my heart last weekend when my wife dropped her off and my baby girl told me that she misses me every day. It shattered me, but I had to do what I had to do, and I know that someday she'll understand why her mother and I separated, or at least I hope she will. The search for a house has been going well, though, and thankfully, a few days ago I managed to find one that was close to my workplace as well as relatively close to our old house. The rent there is also affordable, so I'm planning to move in there within a week or so, and then I'll have my daughter for half of the week and my wife will have her for the other half until we're able to figure out a better arrangement. I'm not going to lie, it's been really hard for me to adjust to this new life. And in my weak moments, I've considered going back to my wife, just for the comfort of the life I'd led for so many years. But then I managed to stay on track and control my urge to forgive her and focus on the future now. My family has been there for me, though, and so have my friends, and I'm really thankful for it. My dad especially has been great to talk to, and I've made it a point to speak to him on the phone for at least 10 minutes a day. His health is getting better slowly but steadily, so at least that's something to be happy about now. Thank you to everyone here for being so kind and helpful. It means the world to me.